Hi, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Generic Ad.
Join us every Wednesday as we talk about films that seem to be forgotten by audiences, whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the film, maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. You never know, you might find your own forgotten gem. Forgotten Cinema is available wherever you get your podcasts or at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are a proud part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
I swear I talk more in the episodes.
Hello there, I'm Colleen.
I'm Anders.
And I'm Daniel.
We're three nerds that met through our love of science fiction and fantasy storytelling. Of course, one of our favorites is George Lucas's signature achievement, Star Wars.
And if there's one thing the internet definitely doesn't have enough of, it's nerds talking about Star Wars. So here we are with yet another Star Wars podcast, where each week we discuss one of the films in the current Star Wars canon.
From the sands of Tatooine to the levels of Coruscant, we cover it all. Yet another Star Wars podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and is part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hi, I'm Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I'm Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
I'm a blurred with a love for artwork and comics and animation.
And I'm a writer and blurred with a love for pretty much the same things.
We grew up together and spent much of our formative years watching and talking about DC superhero shows and content. In fact, we still do.
Every episode, we will discuss a DC production, compare it to its original source material, and share our thoughts on the adaptation.
We've enjoyed our conversations these past couple of decades, and we think you will too.
This season, we'll put a shock to our system by covering Static Shock, the animated series, on
yet another DC animated podcast. Welcome to yet another episode, yet another DC animated podcast. My name is Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I am Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
Andrew and I have known each other since 1996.
That was the year the Damon Wayans and Adam Sandler action buddy cop comedy Bulletproof was released.
Oh my God.
Yep. One of them is an undercover officer. I'm not going to tell you who, but one of them is secretly a cop. And and do you know how this comedy did by Rotten Tomatoes?
It's got to be better than Shaq Steel. I'm pretty sure of that.
I'm not so sure because this one has an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I take that back. I think Shaq Steel is at 12%. So holy crap.
I will certify, but yeah, that is the buddy cop comedy. And it's yes, I can confirm Steel has a 12%. So it Steel ranks higher than this Bulletproof cop action undercover movie. But why are we talking about cops?
Well, because we're talking about these next couple episodes, 7 and 8 of season 2 of Static Shock. We're talking about Pop's girlfriend in episode 7 and then Bad Stretch in episode 8. Now, both of these episodes they talk about, as you could probably figure out from our first title episode, Pop's got a new girlfriend coming to the spot, and there's going to be a little bit of awkwardness amongst the Hawkins home. And then in Bad Stretch, we got Rubber Band Man is back, and we also find out he's got a little bit of tough, family issues. So today's episode is a combination of them. We're going to call it Tough Love.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Tough Love. I love it. And thematically, both of the shows do have police officers as key points of the plot. One a lot less than the other, but they both do have it.
Yeah, so these 2 episodes in total, we have our main Static cast. They're all back right here. And then we got special guest stars Nestor Carbonell, who later actually becomes Anthony Garcia in the Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh. And
funny thing, his name is Officer Garcia in the show. So I'm just going to put it out there. Static and Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy universe, all the same thing. All canon.
Yep.
Just going to put it out there.
Yep. I don't see any problems with that.
All right. Then we have Cheryl Lee Rolfe, a.k.a. Dee, or the mom from Moesha. She's here playing Officer Trina Jessup, who is also Pop's girlfriend in this episode. Wrapping it up, we also got Bumper Robinson. This man I hope he got paid well. He has voiced several characters in this series. He's here as Royce Axelrod in the same Pop's girlfriend episode. And then wrapping it up, we got Kadeem Hardison is back as Rubber Band Man. But so is the rest of the meta breed, as we have Evil Hawk Girl, aka Talon, played by Tia Tejada, Gary Sturgis as Ebon, Rian Tochi as Shiv, aka Lightning Blade McGee. We have newcomer and novella actress Erica Velez, who's voicing Aqua Maria, which I gotta say is a pretty dope name for. No need to workshop that one.
No, you're good. No run and jumps here. And I do miss Bigfoot this week, but I'll get over it. Because
you always have a place in our heart.
And another one of my favorites is here anyway.
Have Matt Ballard back as Carmandillo, y'all.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so we're gonna open it up now with Pop's girlfriend in A Normal Day of Dakota.
Yeah, so we have right away we get two young people hop in the turnstile in a very interesting method. Not saying I have ever hopped the turnstile in my life, but I wouldn't do it the way they did. What do you think about their subway turnstile hopping method?
I felt like this whole thing was just so unorthodox. Like just seeing them hopping the turnstiles was like, that's weird. Like you don't do it, not just because of the lawful illegalness of the nature, but just in general, just it looked weird.
Yeah, the subway sounds were really 100% accurate.
Bing bong.
Yeah, you heard it. There were bing bongs in there. But yeah, for some reason, the turnstile thing. But once they jump on the turnstile, they meet a security guard businessman who has a suitcase handcuffed to his hand that for some reason he decides to unhandcuff itself on the subway. Bro.
Yeah. Also, why was he even taking the subway?
What?
I feel like if you could pay someone to take a briefcase and handcuff it to their hand, you could at least pay for their car service. But also, I don't know what was happening here.
Yeah, just no reason. There was no reason for him to do this. But because he did it, the young men get away with the suitcase, and that sets off a bunch of officers nearby. Meanwhile, Virgil is using a payphone, which is only weird because in a previous episode, he shows that he doesn't need phones anymore. But
oh yeah.
For some reason, they just wanted him in a payphone to have, like, I get it. You wanted the scene of Static Shock coming out of the payphone as a nice Superman homage, but it was a weird thing to see.
Yeah, so he flies off, makes a little quick quip to the citizens of Dakota, asking, like, what, they've never seen a superhero use a payphone. And as he's flying off, we have our aforementioned teenagers, Royce and Frankie, I think that was their names. They are checking out the contents of the briefcase. They get it open, and they see that there's this, like, purplish liquid in vials inside of it. And they're like, yo, and I love this line because it's just like typical, like old school kind of like New Jack City kind of vibe to it. It's just like, yo, let's turn this purple into green. And as they are closing back up the suitcase because they hear some cop cars, on the next alley over, which is really just a surprising coincidence, Virgil is changing out of his static uniform. Two cops who were driving by, Officers Garcia and Jessup, they pass by and they see Virgil coming out of the alleyway with his backpack. And the first thing that Officer Jessup says is that he's got a backpack, and I'm guessing it's because they're looking for Royce and Frankie, who are also seen leaving the scene with a backpack.
Yeah, so right here is probably what's going to make this episode so important, because Virgil walking around with the backpack is instantly profiled by police, and they do explore it later, but on the surface of this, he fits the description that and for that reason they are asking questions. And in this interesting approach to it that is so layered and so smart, the writers put Virgil in a situation where in his backpack is his Static Shock costume, so he cannot let the police officers see that for obvious reasons. So he does have to run from police. And he, this run it's unpacked later, but it is such this short exchange of like, why am I being stopped? Why? Because I fit the description, that kind of thing is so so important, so vital. Of course, it still happens. And it does set up such great drama later on. And Virgil runs back home and he gets there safely, and he has to now meet his father's new girlfriend that Sharon is not happy about either.
Yeah, and Virgil isn't going to be happy about it either, because even though his dad is on cloud 9, flying higher than we've ever seen Static fly, once the door opens, we see that it's Officer Jessup, who is affectionately known as Trina by Robert Hawkins here. And upon seeing each other, this is when Virgil and Officer Jessup immediately recognize each other. She even comments and says that, yes, we have already met. And this is when it all blows up, where Virgil or Officer Jessup has to tell Robert that, yeah, Virgil was at the scene of, was being held by the police for a short period of time. He was asked for his bag to be checked, and then unfortunately he just ran away. And Robert goes off. Like, I think we've, for the better part of this series, has seen Robert to be a very calm and level-headed man. Even when he was going toe-to-toe against Richie's father during the racism episode. But you can hear his fear a little bit in his voice, because even though he's angry, he's more upset over the fact that Virgil ran, because it means that, and there's a strong possibility that his son could have lost his life that day because he ran away from the cops. He's here thinking this entire time he's raised his son to be good, not knowing that, yes, he's fully has. But now, because Virgil has no way to really answer his dad about why he didn't show off his backpack, Robert decides to go and try to see if he can open it and find it himself. Unfortunately, like much teenagers, and I'm pretty sure like myself now, when packing away all the stuff that he had originally laid out, he never really truly organized it. Everything was just shoved into his closet. So everything fell on top of Robert. Just at this point, he had that angry defeat. That's really the only way I can describe it. He was just like, I am done. I don't want to talk about this with you anymore. But Virgil now knows that he is, to quote Robert, beyond grounded, because not only is he seeing that his son put himself in danger, but also the fact that his son being profiled in this way to someone that now Robert cares about. It's so many levels of emotion right here that you never really seen from Robert in previous episodes, but I'm kind of glad that we got a chance to see it in this like 20 minutes. It's like crazy jam-packed, but it all works so well.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. It's so angriest we have ever seen him. He's disappointed with his son. He's mad that his relationship is now completely torpedoed because Sharon wasn't a fan of Trina anyway. So now any hope that this could move forward is dashed in this moment. And we'll definitely unpack more of this moment later. But the show keeps rolling with some great stuff. After Richie, because Virgil is now grounded, and we get the shot of him looking at his costume and his backpack, which is great, like that mournful look. But because he's now grounded, he can't go to the talent show where Richie is going to be singing Destiny's Child. What member of Destiny's Child is Richie going to do?
Oh, hands down, he's going to be Michelle. Like, yeah. Or who were the other two that left?
One of the ones we forget about.
Right, yeah.
And while they're talking about this talent show that Virgil will no longer be going to, Trina stops by in the cop car and says, "Can we talk?" And they go to a restaurant. This setup is perfect because they go to the restaurant to eat in a very public place. And every single person in the restaurant is looking over, why is Virgil eating with a cop? That's all the commentary you need on that.
I do also want to point out that the restaurant was a burger fool too. So not only keeping with the canon of the show, but if you think about it this way, Burger Fool is a lot like maybe your typical McDonald's, your typical Burger King or something like that. So, I mean, I remember growing up, whenever I saw a cop eating inside of a fast food joint, I instantly tensed up a little bit. And that's just being a black man. So you could just imagine what it's like for the city of Dakota, where even though we've seen a lot of episodes where there's a lot of diversity in Dakota, majority of the people who are eating in that fast food joint, the restaurant at that moment, is probably a person of color, seeing another person of color talking to a cop, even though this cop is also a person of color. They just see the cop uniform and immediately think about, all right, what's going down.
Yeah, and it's just an automatic on their guard, and everyone's looking to see how this is going to go, and it doesn't go well because Trina reinforces that Virgil fit the description of the person she was looking for, and also asks, like, do you know if you have any information about what happened? So again, there's this assumption of guilt. It's not unfounded. It's not. Trina has a certain degree of suspicion that is credible. You know, he did run. He was in the area where something had happened.
Yeah.
But we do know that a lot of this is rooted in systematic assumptions and stereotypes and biases. So Trina is wrong, but they make it so layered that it's not a simple issue of this cop is just hateful for hateful's sake. So I really appreciated all of that complexity to it. And again, they didn't have to go this hard, but they did. There are some adult shows that can't handle this with as much subtlety. So it's incredible to see. And while Virgil is trying to navigate all this, we get back to some of the superhero stuff because Royce and who's the other guy?
And Frankie, yeah, they're over at the school. Royce tells Frankie that he needs to check out the papers that they found inside the briefcase, because one of the things that we learned during the conversation between Officer Jessup and Virgil while at Burger Fool was that the contents of the briefcase contained, like a very concentrated strain of the Bang Baby serum. So this liquid was going to be taken over to scientists to get studied so that there is a possibility of, possibly finding the cure. And this is kind of the first time we're really hearing about all right, they're doing some work to figure out how to save citizens of Dakota who were afflicted by this whole incident. And as she mentions this, she also mentions that, unfortunately, the liquid is very unstable, that it's only going to be in a liquid form until 24 hours from now. So 3:00 tomorrow of the next day, we're, as Virgil quoted it as, we're going to have the Big Bang Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. So now that he's worried about, not only that he doesn't know where this Bang Baby gas is going to come from, he can't go out to try to see patrols to see if he could find any remnants of it anywhere. But we now know that Royce and Frankie have it because they have found out that it is the Bang Baby serum. And Royce is just ecstatic about it because he's like, yo, we saw what happened with F-Stop or Francis. I'm sorry. I don't know why I try to call him by his street name. We saw what happened with Francis and how he became Hot Streak. They're thinking, well, at least Royce is thinking, I could become somebody as big and powerful as he is. But Frankie really doesn't want any of it. And as he's trying to pull the serum away from Royce, we see a couple drops of it fall into a wastebasket. But we now get a little bit of foreshadowing because not only do we see a spider making its way down into the wastebasket where the Bang Baby serum has spilled, we also see a giant cockroach. It was already big before it got turned. And then it got bigger, and I did not like it.
Yeah, these I thought they were in New York City for a second, this episode. The subway, the roaches, it had it all. Back to the quieter scene. Yeah, so Virgil uses his powers in this innovative way where he's listening through his vents to a conversation that Robert is having with Trina downstairs. And Trina, for her part, she says, I don't want to mess up this family dynamic. Sharon doesn't like me. I got on the wrong foot with Virgil. I don't foresee how we can move forward. And Virgil's really kind of taking it in for the first time that, his father does want to have his own life, but obviously he's in a no-win scenario.
Yeah.
And to make things even worse, he gets a call from Richie that the bugs are out here and they are big. And they are bigger than ever. There is a giant ass spider and a giant ass roach terrorizing Dakota. And I'm going to give it to Richie. He tried to throw hands with a giant cockroach. And let me tell you, on most days, I don't want to deal with a regular cockroach at all. So the fact, and we do say cockroach. I don't want anybody complaining. Cockroach. And when he does go, this thing could eat him in one bite, and he is just trying his best to do what he can, but it's just Richie, so it doesn't work out too well. But luckily, Static arrives on the scene to do some bug zapping.
Yeah, and quickly gets rid of, I don't know, the giant cockroach from Men in Black.
Oh, yeah.
and Aragog. It's the only way I can think of them now. But yeah, he gets rid of them. But now Virgil has to head back home. He is eating dinner with his father and Sharon, and it's real quiet. Like you drop a fork and you might get in trouble kind of quiet. As Sharon finally starts complaining about how quiet it is, Robert goes off and he's finally sharing some stuff about himself. You know, he took the time to really attend to his kids after their mother died. And, you know, that was years. And for all those years, Virgil and Sharon have been telling him that you need to get back out there. You know, you need to live your life. And he says that, you know, now that I got an opportunity to do so, the first thing you do is basically just shove her away. And at first, Virgil is just like, he didn't really felt like he didn't do anything, but he's like thinking about it again, just from the conversation that he overheard. As now Robert storms off. So now we just have to jump back to school the next day where Virgil is taking a history test. Like I have a question about this, because is this the same test from the last episode that basically got held off because of the sunspots, and then, you know, like Francis basically burned down the school? Is this the finally rescheduled history test that Virgil was supposed to take this whole time?
I think so. I think it's the same test. I think they're still stuck around midterms or after midterms. And it doesn't matter because it's going to get interrupted again, because Royce already came in and he was jacked. He heard about our most jacked competition that we do here every week, and he won. Because he's clearly stacked, he's jacked. But unfortunately, the mutations don't stop there. And in a horrifying scene, Royce, in the middle of class, just mutates into this inhuman being, this hulking purple monstrosity. And it is horrifying. It looks painful. He just doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, and the only thing that Virgil can do is find. He actually does something pretty smart, which I'm shocked at. It was just, again, such quick thinking, I guess, from just a year plus time of just heroism. But he runs over to Frankie, knowing that Royce and Frankie roll together, and it's just like, you guys took the briefcase. Where's the serum? Because this place is about to be turned into, you know, Mutant High, the sequel or something like that. As Frankie tells him where it is, Virgil runs out, making sure to evacuate every single person in the school. And then he goes over to, I guess, the administrative office. And earlier in the episode, during their conversation at Burger Fool, Trina gives him a card and tells him, if you ever find out anything, you know, just call this number. And he does so. And he alerts her to the fact that Royce has mutated due to the serum. And now the whole thing is starting to fall apart here at the school. So Officers Garcia and Jessup are heading over. Virgil goes over to change it to Static, and he's able to find the locker where Royce has kept the Big Bang serum in it the entire time. Which I gotta say, that was a really, really bad look, Royce. Like, I feel like in any kind of locker check, you would have been locked up real quick.
Oh yeah. This was but luckily he did keep it in his locker because he found it quickly. And
that is very true, I guess.
And Static crumples up this locker and throws it into space.
Mm-hmm.
Not unlike Fast and Furious, Virgil sent this thing to space, and there was no Tyrese up there, but he did set off a huge explosion, making sure the gas is safely out of the way. And I know some might think this was his scene of shocking destruction. I just want to reiterate that earlier he did destroy the football goalpost when getting rid of the spider.
Yes,
that's going to cause more damage. This locker, relatively not a problem. But Static comes back down to help out with Royce. And again, he doesn't want to attack Royce. Running theme with Static. He doesn't want to hurt anybody who clearly is not in control. And two officers show up to help him, which leads to the funniest scene in this thing, because Royce momentarily knocks aside Static, and an officer says, "Static." They pull Static to safety, and he says, "You stay here. I'm gonna go help." He goes over and immediately gets knocked out. Hilarious.
And, even Static was looking at him just like, "Are you serious right now, bro?" But Luckily, though, we had Officer Jessup. She pepper sprays Royce in the face to distract him long enough from hitting Static or Officer Garcia even further. And she's just going basically toe to toe with Royce, dodging hits, being able to move out the way, trying to distract him long enough just for Static to regain some consciousness here for himself, grab one of the drapes in the auditorium, wraps Royce around in it, and then uses that to distract him long enough away from Officer Jessup so that he can get his attention and get him outside. Static is able to use his electricity to grab Royce and put him up against a statue and then bend the statue's arms around him, trapping him there. As now Static is talking with Officer Trina, and they are just kind of like reconciling a little bit here. But, she doesn't know that it's Virgil, but Virgil's now just like, he feels like he's in much better graces with Officer Jessup than he was originally.
Yeah. And then it's further followed by a scene where Virgil is publicly recognized for his efforts, which rarely happens. So it's also a nice scene in general. And he's praised for his quick action and as well as the brave officer, because let's face it, only Trina was doing anything.
Yes.
And this is a moment of reconciliation between Robert and Trina. Mm-hmm. Sharon's there. And in a great, hilarious ending, Virgil's like, "Look, Pops, see what I did?" He's like, and Robert goes, "I'm so proud of you." You still grounded though. And that's where we go.
Can you just imagine that though? Like, I saved the whole school and I still can't even go nowhere.
So sad. So tragic.
So that there wraps up our first episode with Pop's Girlfriend. Now we're going to move on over to Bad Stretch. We're back at the gas station of Solitude where Virgil and Richie are hanging out. And Virgil's doing that, taking some wire. I don't remember what it was called, but I remember we used to do this a lot when we were kids. Like we take some
Cat's
string.
Cradle.
Cat's Cradle. Thank you. Yes. Mm-hmm. He's like showing it off to Richie, saying that he's got this new move where it's called the Nova Burst. And it's basically a ball of light that he creates from his hands that travels around the wires that he's messing around with. And my biggest question about this is, how is this any different from the Nova Bomb?
The name.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. All right. I see the difference now. It's all clear.
That's it. And luckily he does have this. And also Richie also reveals a new device, a small little compact transmitter tracker device that he can put on anything, and Static, using his powers, can hear it at a frequency that presumably nobody else would notice, which is a really cool invention. Yeah. Also, Richie, why are you poor? You make stuff like this?
This is an after-school project for him. Not doing Steve Jobs out here. Like,
come on, Mr. Musk, get on it. And it's lucky he has both these new devices because the meta breed is back. Bootleg Hot Girl, Aqua Maria, Lightning Blade McGee. They're all out there, but only Aqua Maria is the center of attention. So Static, as has been established a lot of times, can short out. And so Aqua Maria is a huge problem for him. And he does short out. But luckily, Rubber Band Man bounces in and completely just owns Aqua Maria pretty instantly.
Yeah, homeboy comes through. He seems like a real superhero now as he wraps up Aqua Maria and turning himself basically into a water balloon. And this knocks her out. And as Rubber Band Man is talking with the cops, Static is just like, "Yo, is this another fight?" Like he's like just ready to take down Rubber Band Man once again. But then this is when Rubber Band Man reveals that now he has been released from prison. He served his time after everything that happened with the record producer from last season and his escape from last season as well. He's ready to go and talk with everybody and really be a true hero. And even the cops are signing off on this. They're saying that, yeah, he's been working with us for a couple of weeks or months now, and it's been great, which he immediately gives Static a little bit of jealousy right here, because he's just like, Rubber Band Man was one of his first villains that he had to fight, and to see that he's, turned over, he doesn't believe it at first. So he's still thinking that like there's something up with him.
Also,
And-
I just want to point out one of the officers goes, "Nice try, Static," continuing the background characters being the best, but also, where the hell do you get off, bro? What would you have done against Aquamaria? Random officer number 6. Had to get that off my chest.
I can tell. No, I can hear it. Now the next question has to be like, who do you detest more, Officer Garcia or this guy?
This guy, because at least Officer Garcia tried it. You know, I can respect the man who tries it, but this guy did nothing.
So we head on back now to the Metabreed hideout. They've, I don't know if I'll call this an upgrade. They're like at a carnival with some animatronic animals.
It's definitely a Chuck E. Cheese.
It's okay. It's definitely a Chuck E. Cheese. Okay, cool. I wanted to be sure. So Carmen Dillo is, he's basically the busboy here. He's coming through with the lattes. He's like asking Ebon how's he like his milk and sugar in his latte. But Ebon is tight because he's just like, we really wanted to get Aquamaria in the Metabreed. Honestly, I agree with him. I mean, her power set is crazy. So, and as he's getting angry over the fact that Aquamaria got caught by Static, this is where Lightning Blade McGee are just saying that, nah, it wasn't Static. It was actually over Bandman. And Ebon just goes off. He's trashing everything in sight because he's just really upset. We don't really know why, but we do hear from Talon and Shiv, or the two of them, that Ebon has his reasons for being upset about Rubber Band Man.
Yeah, and speaking of Rubber Band Man, he's enjoying his fame. He's going to be on Variety Night Live, yo. Variety Night Live. And it's like, guys, come on. Look, 2 more minutes on the names. And he is surrounded by fans and just so busy, but he gets a call from Sharon. And this is a nice continuation of the previous storyline where him and Sharon were dating. Mm-hmm. And she tries to get his attention, but Rubber Band Man is so immersed in fame and he's just so distracted that he kind of blows his shot a little bit right here with Sharon again. And of course, Virgil is ecstatic because he doesn't like Rubber Band Man for any reason, like any good, younger brother. And as Rubber Band Man tries to chill in his ridiculously spacious and expensive condo who
was paying for this?
The city, maybe the cops. I don't know. I've never lived in.
I know he ain't getting no right, and he ain't getting no gigs, at least as far as I know. Because we haven't heard about any new music from Stringer. Like, what's going on?
Royalties.
Oh,
that's what
royalties.
It is.
Okay,
Probably.
That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah, they've been playing his song a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
It's Bigfoot.
Cooler than cold.
Him and Bigfoot had a collab. It's doing really well.
The album we wanted, release the Bigfoot Stringer cut now.
Let's go. That's the petition. And while he's at home chilling, Ebon comes in, and we find out they're related. They are brothers, and Rubber Man makes a great comment about, like, anytime I tried to follow what you were doing, what you told me to do, I ended up worse. And Ebon is just insisting that Rubber Man's only going to have success with him. He wants him back in the Metabreed crew. And in a nice moment, I noticed here, and this does come up later, which is a great design point that they put in from the beginning of the show, that Rubber Band Man and Ebon have similar heads. They have these similar little 2 mini arcs on their head. And
right.
So even subconsciously, they were telling us the entire time these 2 characters were related in some way, which is cool. Or an illustrator messed up.
So
and they just ran with it.
This also completely shatters, y'all, my previous theory that what's his name? The dude that first gave Virgil the gun back in the first episode was actually Ebon. Yeah, this completely tears that apart. Because now we know officially that Ebon's real name is Evan, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have Evan and Adam here. Or Ivan, sorry. It's Ivan. Right. Wow, I just realized Adam and Ivan Evans. That is... Woo, Ebon kind of drew the short straw on that one.
Yeah, and I see why you changed it to Ebon. And So Rubber Band Man refuses his brother's invitation, but the Metabreed isn't deterred. They go and decide to steal the Game Station 2, the biggest console of the year, at the biggest electronics store to ever exist. This electronics store, the first floor was like a football field. This thing is huge.
Words. I'm surprised they even found the Game Station 2.
Yeah, it's just like, what is going on? And Static comes in to face them off. Bootleg Hot Girl reveals she can do a canary cry that is like can shatter glass and devices. And Static is in a little bit of trouble here. He's a little bit outclassed for the first time in this gigantic warehouse VCR store. And Rubber Band Man luckily bounces in again. And Static, taking lessons from Batman, he's like, I work alone. That's my thing. But Rubber Band Man isn't having it, and he jumps into the battle.
Yeah, and it's a really good one here, too, for all of 3 seconds, really, because they do get separated, Static and Rubber Band Man. As Shiv comes through, he creates a baseball with his hand, a baseball bat with his hands, and knocks out Rubber Band Man, sending him to another room flying, leaving Static to deal with the 3 members of the Metabreed. As Rubber Band Man wakes up and he sees that his brother Ebon is now walking around with him, stalking him in terms of like telling him that he needs to stay out of his business, as the two start arguing. But we cut back now to Static. He's taking out the Metabreed one by one. And as he finally is able to do so, there's a really funny little scene of Carmendillo trying to run away, but he wasn't going to get far.
No, Carmendillo had no shot. I also did like that when Talon used her sonic shriek, Static.
Yes, that was a beautiful scene.
Yeah, pulled up the mics and like the feedback knocked her out. And he mentions, and I love this moment too because he mentions Batman would have had real earplugs, and I'm like, yes, but Nightwing doesn't wear a full mask, so who knows? Who knows? But
So,
that's the end of the battle.
You got a lot of issues with Nightwing's mask, man.
I'll never give it up.
So Static heads on over to the back room where Rubber Band Man was sent. And he sees Ebon and him talking, and as Static pulls out, he's ready to use basically using all the light that's put around him to weaken Ebon. This is when Rubber Band Man jumps on top of Ebon and giving him an opportunity to escape. And this leads into an argument between Static and Rubber Band Man. Rubber Band Man clearly did it for a reason, as we know is they're related. He's protecting his brother, but he puts off the idea that he only did it because he just judged it wrong. He just made the wrong call. He thought that he probably could have captured him there. But not only is he thinking that he could have captured him, we also see this whole moment get captured on camera. As in our next scene, back at the Hawkins home, Virgil and Richie are watching the report from #1 reporter of Dakota, Shelley Sandoval, who's showing this recording of the fight, a Rubber Band Man jumping on top of Ebon, protecting him from Static's attack. And now this leads into the question of, is Rubber Band Man truly a good guy? Have we all been duped this entire time by Adam Evans?
Yeah, and the Dakota police, they're like, yep. And they immediately go to his apartment, which I emphasize is gigantic because Rubber Band Man is able to stretch his neck approximately the length of half the building and to go to another window. So that tells me your apartment is huge as hell, bro. Like, get me your realtor. And the police is there because the Metabreed got broken out last night. And somebody in a purple costume who can stretch to unnatural lengths was responsible. And by all accounts, it looks like Rubber Band Man was there. We saw the purple costume. We saw him breaking out the Metabreed. Is this the agreement he had with his brother? So Rubber Band Man manages to escape the apartment, and he hides in Virgil's house as furniture again. Another great callback. And he's trying to talk to Sharon, but Virgil isn't having any of it. He just refuses to just believe take Rubber Band Man's word for it. And he, in this exchange, he realizes that, you know, there's more to Rubber Band Man than he thinks, that his brother is Ebon, and, you know, they are related, and that's why they instinct to protect, which Virgil immediately gets. So Virgil decides to track Rubber Band Man, and Ebon, because he's so damn smart, figured that Rubber Band Man would go to Virgil's house, so he waits nearby, scoops Rubber Band Man up as Static puts on the tracker so he can go and find Rubber Band Man.
Yeah, and Static's able to quickly find them using the sound, the high frequency, so he ends up at the abandoned Chuck E. Cheese, and he overhears Ebon inviting Rubber Band Man basically to the Metabreed as a new member of the gang. All of them are ecstatic about it. We got Shiv, Talon, Carmendillo, and Aquamaria, who are all there. And Rubber Band Man is just like, I never agreed to any of this. Like, I'm not joining your gang. But more importantly, I'm still trying to figure out why they think that I broke you guys out. And it just so happened that as Virgil's listening in on this, he actually pulls up a roof board. I don't know what they're called, a shingle. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all full of asbestos at this cheese. Doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. So he pulls up one, and he actually somehow Ebon decides to hide the suit up in the rafters here. And as Static hears that, like, Rubber Band Man is still unsure about this, he's now confirming to himself that, like, okay, Rubber Band Man is actually on the side of good, so I'm gonna go help him out. As he enters into the room that they're all in, reveals the suit, throws it at Ebon, and this is when an entire battle breaks out, with the first thing happening, which I'm really shocked to see the extent of Ebon's powers, because I never really thought about it this way. So I always used to think that Ebon is just able to teleport himself, and it's just like, or just like travel around shadows, you know, still it just quickly, but still taking some time. No, Ebon is able to create portals to anywhere, as he creates a portal to what looked like the center of the earth, or at least the bottom of a volcano, as he pushes Static in it, and Static is basically about to fall into a bed of magma.
Yeah, Ebon was trying to murk Static on site.
Words.
Immediately.
Words.
And I love the ruthlessness, and, you know, it's triggered by this relationship with his brother completely dissolving. And luckily, Rubber Band Man reaches through the portal fast enough to catch Static, pull him back through for the final fight. And I did want to mention that during the exchange between Ebon and his brother, they do have this great line where they go, once they slap a bad guy label on you, that's forever.
Yep.
And another, there's a lot of really subtle moments of commentary in this episode, but that one is the best line, where, you know, Rubber Band Man in the media has been vilified. He has a record. He is a black man. He is a musician. You know, there's a lot of stuff that they hit here of him being a celebrity and being accused of these crimes. And so, you know, Ebon rightly assumed that if he could frame his brother for one crime, that would turn him against everyone. So
right.
It's a great line. But right now they jump into the battle, and it's time for Static to pull out the big guns, the cat's cradle.
Yeah, he tells the rest of the Metabreed that he was saving it for their boss, but he's going to use it on them. As he creates a giant burst of energy, the light blinds everyone, and he's now using the animatronic creatures from behind the carnival Chuck E. Cheese thing to capture them all. And the only person it doesn't work on is Aquamaria, again, showing how crazy her power set is, because the light basically just went through her. But we get a moment of Static science facts here, as Static ask the question for not only Aquamaria, but all of us. Do we know what electrolysis is? It is, as he says, the moment in which a current of electricity goes through water, breaking it down into the hydrogen and oxygen molecules that create it. And he does this to Aquamaria as she basically evaporates. And I honestly feel that if she didn't come back together from the random rain cloud that popped out of nowhere, he would have killed her. 100% killed her.
Yeah, I think Virgil almost killed that woman.
Yeah. Hold it down, Virgil.
Everyone's trying to kill somebody today.
Mm-hmm.
And now that the meta breed is down, even Carmandillo, the strongest of them all, Ebon and Rubber Band Man, Ebon and Rubber Band Man have a great fight. It's wonderfully animated. They stretch, they contort their bodies into all these shapes as they're fighting, but ultimately Ebon comes out behind because Rubber Band Man wins, of course. And Rubber Band Man, in a way you can tell that Static's rubbing off on him, he pledges to help Ebon to see if he can rehabilitate his brother in the future. And this moment, along with all the heroic actions he's seen, these two have a high five. And it is a great, to see where they started, to see where they are now. This high five is excellent. And that's the hopeful note we end on, that these two, they may not be Batman and Robin or even Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but they might understand where each other is coming from in the future.
I also do want to point out one really well animated scene from the Ebon and Rubber Band Man fight. We see again kind of like the full extent of their powers. Rubber Band Man more so being able to stretch long distances, as does Ebon, and they contort themselves into this almost like double helix. So I thought that was just like a really cool visual play on the fact that they're brothers, and it's just like there's this shared DNA among them. So it's just like it makes sense for their fight to kind of turn into this double helix kind of look, because it's just like we're going to find out who's the better, I don't know, the better chromosome or something, or whatever it is. Science facts that I'm blanking on right now, but I just thought it was really cool just to see them turn themselves into a double helix to show that, like, yeah, they share this very similar DNA, and for it to now kind of boil down to that final battle there was just like. And that visual effect was just so cool.
Yeah. No, I love that little detail. And again, you can tell there's a lot of same versus same battles out there in a lot of superhero media, and they don't always take advantage of it. But here, full advantage. You know, they're brothers. Just the metaphor of like seeing their DNA and their brothers like alone is incredible. So yeah, it's a great final fight, and it's a memorable one. It does leave me at the end of this episode wondering, does Virgil now have a cop as a stepmom and a rapper, musician / superhero villain as a stepbrother? Is that where he ends these 2 episode arc? Is this where it's all been leading up to?
You know, I believe it will. You know, we head on back to the Hawkins home. Adam has arrived with some flowers to apologize to Sharon. And even though Virgil's joking that he'd rather face off against the whole meta breed, it seems like, you know, Adam's willing to give his thing with Sharon another shot. And, you know, I am hoping that we do get a chance to see more of Pop's girlfriend, Trina here, because I think she's a good balance for him from what we saw a little bit here. Like, you know, it's surprising to see that she was the one to make the judgment call. It's just like, hey, I can see that my presence here is affecting your family. So I'm willing to take this shot at my happiness for the sake of your family, because this doesn't, you know, I don't want to try to push something that isn't going to work out. And to see it finally work out in the end, that's just great. But until then, we have the better, more important question to ask, I should say, of what was our best episode and what was our worst episode of this time?
Man, this was the hardest. This was the hardest one to choose between, because these are really 2 stellar episodes.
Yeah.
These are two episodes that talk about important issues. They grace important issues, pay off characters, but, you know.
But it can only be one.
There can only be one. And Carmandillo is the deciding factor, because as much as I love him, it's gotta be Pop's girlfriend. The sheer amount of issues it covers, from single parents remarrying to police profiling to what to do when a big ass spider shows up in your school. This episode covers every major issue you're going to run into. But seriously, it does, in such a lot of modern shows, when they want to talk about issues of Black policing, we often just get the narrative that the officer is bad and that they're doing this for no reason, and that a Black person is being profiled, and that the comeuppance is the officer gets they get a great speech. They get like a Uncle Phil speech, or they get this comeuppance, and then that's the end.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that if this is the interaction, as we see in the real world, nothing changes. The officer goes back and does this to somebody else because their bias hasn't been challenged. Right. And for the person who was victimized, they don't really get to see any change besides that momentary satisfaction. The system is upheld. So when you get something where the cop is presented as a three-dimensional character who makes mistakes, who has biases they have to overcome, and you see them challenge it and possibly bring that to their peers in the future, that is a better and more optimistic thing. It's important to show, of course, it's important to show policing and how it really happens, but it is more important to show how you change it. And I think the show, without having to go through the minutia, again, as we always say, in 20 minutes, shows that you have to sit down, you have to have conversations, otherwise nothing will ever change. These stories will keep repeating themselves. And to see the episode take a concentrated effort to have the officer meet with Virgil at the end, not Static, but Virgil, speaks volumes. And I think that's what makes this so impactful, such an important episode.
Dang, man, I was just about to give it to Bad Stretch. The Carmandilla was a deciding factor for me.
That VCR store, man, it's huge. I get it. You get lost in it.
Yeah, the Game Station 2, the most prized thing past even PS5. No, but I agree. I think that Pop's Girlfriend is a really strong episode because, again, it kind of shows more about Static. It's not just an episode where it's just like we see Static saving the day all the time. There's an opportunity. We saw Virgil step up and save the day, which, you don't really see a lot of superhero stuff do. Like, a lot more recently, we kind of blurred the lines of what is a secret identity for someone. And, a lot of the Marvel stuff is kind of like washed away the concept of secret identities. And, we're just so common to know who this person is. But this time around, none of the superheroics was done by Static. It was all done by Virgil with just a little bit of Static help. And not only that, but it really dived into those conversations that, like, I was really thinking about it with this episode airing about 20 years ago. It opened the door to more conversations to happen in the future. Like, I really was sitting there thinking about, I was like, can Virgil actually have his bag checked at that point? Was the law when it comes to that? And honestly, one of it is just like, the police officer is supposed to give you some idea of why you're being searched, and Virgil didn't receive that. So this comes into questions like, was Virgil right to run? Did Virgil play it safe? Was he, all these things that, we're knowing that he's being profiled here, because one of the other things I'm gonna be honest about, Virgil and Royce don't look alike in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. But to the eyes of, someone who has that bias, that they're basically going to see Virgil and Royce as one and one. So I think there was a lot of strong themes throughout Pop's Girlfriend. The concept of, like you were saying, with divorced parents finding new love. And, what does it mean to be a Black person, or at least a person of color in America? So when you have all of those themes thrown in there, it makes a strong episode that, again, makes sense, shows us both sides of the characters from both angles, from both, both debates on what should have been done. Like this, at this point, it's just like, you can't say that anybody was completely in the wrong. Everybody had their reason, but we had that shared understanding of why we saw that person as being right. And then when we see now with Bad Stretch, I think it's one of those stories that's like ironically, it's in its own way, it's a very high kind of story, but still grounded in its own way, because it's talking about the interpersonal relationships between two brothers, one who has fallen into the gang life and one who's just like, I saw it as a part of my life, but now I kind of really want out. And both of these episodes really show the tale as old as time of just like the racial profiling and, trying to get out of the game. but I think that Pop's Girlfriend, just because of the fact that it covered so much, is a better Static episode. But I will give Bass Stretch as probably one of the best episodes in the Rubber Band Man story arc that we see throughout the series, because we are now 3 episodes deep with Rubber Band Man, and he is one of the most compelling side characters that I think I've seen like in the last 20 years or so. It's amazing to kind of see his story grow from just what we thought was going to be a random villain one time to now being like this true trajectory of, like, can he truly become a hero? Is he, to quote, just to pull from Avatar, is he going to find his honor? Like, it's just really cool to see that. So it is tough to say that this was the worst episode, but by no way at all is this a bad episode.
Yeah, if you didn't bring up the Zuko comparison, I was going to. The story of Static the whole series does such a great job at putting these kids and other criminals into situations where they didn't want to do this, but they found themselves in this life, and they have the choice. They always have the choice every time they appear, whether to continue being a criminal or to try to make something of their life, to try to leave that behind. Everyone gets a chance to reform. Sometimes you burn the school down, even when you do get your chance. But other times, maybe you'll make a difference, and maybe you'll make a different choice. And that's what Static believes in. And it always makes for compelling. So no, this is not to shade Bad Stretch. It is a fantastic episode on its own. It is just competing with one of the best episodes. It goes up there with Frozen and The Time He Met Shaq. It's up there.
Oh god!
What was it? What was that other one? The bug episode?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Aaron Carter music video, but
no,
you're talking about the
1%, the 1% of Germs episode.
Yeah, the 1% of Germs episode, the Paramecium, the scariest villain of all time.
Carmandillo, Paramecium. Those are the top 2 Static villains. Both great episodes this week, and this series is such good at interweaving these social issues and these running themes of redemption and choice. It just does it so well.
Yeah. And that wraps up our 2 episodes. We don't really have much comic thing, except we finally have a villain who is in the comics.
What?
Yes. Shout out to Aqua Maria. She is in the comics. She is a Milestone original creation, not just for the TV series. Aqua Maria can be found in the Blood Syndicate comics. She is one of the members of the gang. But this time around, I'm really shocked that they made her a little bit of a villain here. She's very much I guess like more of an anti-hero in the comics. She actually, really cool thing about her, a majority, if not all of her dialogue in the comics is said in Spanish. So it's really cool just to see that they included her character, not only in the comics in this particular way, to really connect with the Latino community through Milestone, the predominantly, at first like a Black production, now turning into something where it's just like stepping out into really speaking with other people, but also to introduce her to the TV series kind of really made us feel a little whole here, because it was like really cool just to see her come up. There's like this even here. It's like kind of like her story is very similar. She joins this gang, but she is still a good person, which I'm not going to dive too much into kind of like the story about, because we do see her later on pop up in another episode of Static that I think actually matches more of the comics. So I'll save that info for another time. But I will say that also we do have probably one more comic reference. The show that Rubber Band Man was supposed to go on, the variety show, is actually of a similar name of the show that he made his first appearance in the comics.
Okay. So it wasn't just a lazy.
No, it was. Yeah, he was supposed to. There was a show that they put together. It was kind of like not necessarily a variety show. It was more like Montel or Ricky Lake, where metahuman bang babies could come through and talk about what they're going through and everything. But what Rubber Band Man used it for instead, at this time when he wasn't Adam Evans but a different character, by the last name, I think his name, again, was Carl Stringer. He used it to call out Static. So to have it be that he was heading back onto another reality show of the same way, it was a really nice callback, which I think was really kind of like cool just to see again pop up for him and really add into the mythos of combining this history about Rubber Band Man to his animated production counterpart. And yeah, that's it for our comic book stuff. Again, this was just a very strong episode in talking about police relations a little bit, and also just like, you know, the tough love aspects that we just try to see here about, you know, love is never going to be easy. It's always going to be something where, you know, this is something you have to work at. I'm not saying it's going to be complicated, but it's definitely something you got to put in the work for. So glad to see that we got a sense of that from the episode of Pop's Girlfriend, in which he's, you know, to really trying to create something new for himself and new for his family. While also in Bad Stretch, we see that brotherly love between Rubber Band Man and Ebon, as once again, Adam is really trying to just, you know, look out for Ivan by saying that, like, you know, I'm trying to get out the game. Maybe you can too. But also Ebon's still trying to protect his little brother, because even from that one line he said that, you know, once dad died, I had to become the man of the house. So it's just like there's a sense of love and protection that he wants to give to his brother, even though it didn't really come across in the best way, we should say.
Yeah, you know, Robert's line, I have a life and I'm going to live it. You can accept that or not. Definitely resonates with the first episode. And yeah, just the continuing issue throughout the series of, you know, you can love your siblings, but you don't have to follow them down a dark path if you're uncomfortable with it, is just something that keeps coming back up, and it always is amazing to get reinforced.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps it up for us. Until then, take care of yourselves. And if you see a giant roach, just run away. That's my only word of advice. Don't be Will Smith. Don't be Richie. I mean, if you feel confident in your skills, I guess, but I'm running, so you should too.
Yeah. And if your employer asks you to transfer some questionable purple juice in a suitcase while handcuffed on the subway, just call an Uber.